Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back to the MEC-TEC garage. Now look, we've got all the Lotus parts back out in the middle of the garage to work on today. We are back on the Lotus project. The piston rings have finally arrived. It has been a while. It took a while to come back in stock, these things. It was about a month and a bit to actually get another set of these piston rings to me. And I've also got a new cam belt kit and tensioner over there that came at the same time as well. So we're going to carry on the Lotus engine where we left off last time. If you saw the last video, you would have seen that I managed to break one of the new oil scraper rings when I was installing the piston. The clamp around the piston let one of the little scraper rings just ping out the bottom, and they're only very, very thin, and obviously it snapped. So that is the reason why I had to obviously stop play on the Lotus engine. Also, in the meantime, my old mate Dan came over and I said to him about these liners being totally flush with the block, and he said, "You sure they're totally flush?" We got a flat edge on it again with a feeler gauge and a light, and sure enough they are actually sitting very, very slightly proud. I can't remember the exact spec off the top of my head, but they are bang on spec for sitting. I think it's like 0.13 or something stupid like that. It's really tiny. In fact, the feeler gauge is here, hang on, I'll tell you. Yeah, 0.13. 0.13 millimeters was the spec in the original Lotus manual down there, and these liners are absolutely bang on perfect. That's the feeler gauge sitting there as proof with the flat edge. So there you go. So we've actually proven that although I thought they were flat initially, putting a straight edge on them, now that they've set in and the sealer's obviously settled down and everything else and it's all dried, I don't know whether I was measuring it wrong or what, but we got a light behind it and you could just see a very, very faint sort of line of light underneath them. As I say, it's literally so thin, it's untrue. So they are bang on spec for what the Lotus manual says, which is absolutely mega. I'm really, really chuffed about that. So I'm going to quickly get these piston rings put on that piston. We'll get that one installed. You saw me do that in the last video, and obviously what went wrong and everything else. So you don't need to see me do this again. So I'll quickly get that put into the piston, get that in the block, get the cap torqued up to spec on the conrod, and then we can carry on from there and hopefully start getting this engine back in one piece again and get it running with any luck, fingers crossed. Probably not in this episode, but we'll get a fair way to it hopefully. So let's crack on and get some work done. Rightio, as you would have just seen, the fourth piston is now in, and we have a complete rotating assembly on the bottom end now. Just show you that quickly going around. There we go, nice and smooth. Obviously I put my liner clamp back on there again because I didn't want to obviously make that liner pop out when I turned it over. It is lovely and smooth actually, it's really good. So I'm going to leave that like that. So we're at top dead centre on number one, just because I think that's the best way to leave it. Next thing we're going to install is the oil pickup. Now to do that, we need to flip the engine over. I said we need to flip the engine over. Come on. Why is it not moving? I'm trying to take this bolt out, locking bolt out, and it's not having it. That's a bit daft, isn't it? What's happening here then? Won't go either way. Oh, there we go. Right. Let's flip this over. Seems to want to go that way easier than the other way, so we'll go that way. Now the oil pickup actually bolts on to one of the main bearing pick bolts, so you have to take one of them back off again. It goes through there like so, and you have to take that bolt back off again. So let's do that. I think that's a 17 or a 19, one of the two. It's a 9. Oh, is it a 19? Yeah, it's probably an imperial equivalent, but it's right. So you've got to take that one back off again. This is how it tells you to do it in the manual, by the way. I don't think I'm daft in putting it on there in the first place. Rotate that round. Goes on there, that goes on there, that goes back on there, and then we've got to re-torque it. Two, let's have a look at the spec. The amount of times I flick through this book to try and find the spec of this. Where is it? Yeah, 65 foot-pounds. So let's get this on this torque wrench. Dial it back a bit because I was on the main bearing caps, which I think are 86. There's 60. That's about 65 there. We need an extension for that to get round the oil pickup this time. There we go, 65. Make sure that's right. There we go, and I've cleaned that oil pickup out as well, because obviously I cleaned it initially, but I've had it give it another slosh out with some brake cleaner just to make sure that everything gunk wise is out of it. Now we've got to flip it back over again, and the oil pickup comes through that hole there. And in the head gasket kit, it comes with a new olive for that to go into. Don't tell Popeye, you might not be very pleased. There is our new olive in there, as you can see. So let's cut this open. First time cutting this open, so we're on to the main gasket set now, which is kind of a milestone, I guess. Not really, but in my head it's a good thing. So, and as you can see, we've got tons of gaskets and O-rings and seals and all sorts of paraphernalia in here. That is the one we want for the minute. It says you have to oil that, which is obviously for lubrication. Slide it over the end of the pipe, which is now in that hole there that we've just put through, and do up the big locking nut, which is this thing here. It's got a giant Allen headed cap on it, which we used, if I remember rightly, we used my square peg keys, and the bit you normally put your spanner on effectively is the same size as that, luckily, so we'll just use that, which is good. So let's grab a little bit of what have I got engine oil wise we can use. Must have some engine oil around here somewhere. Got old engine oil, I don't really want to use that. Doesn't matter what it is as long as it's oil. Castrol GTX, that'll do. I'll just tip that, put that in there and tip it up, get it all around it, like that. There we go. So you get that so it's all over it. In theory, it should go in there. Famous last words. It's a really tight fit. I don't know whether you're supposed to, I don't think you're supposed to use this to wind it down because it's not got a thread to start with, so I imagine you just have to work that in. It's going to be a little bit tricky. I think it's probably just more the threads stopping it going than anything else. Ooh. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a socket on that rather than pushing it from side to side. I'm going to push it evenly with a socket. What size do we need? Bigger than that. 7/8, that looks like a good size. What do you reckon? Yeah, that might work. Let's give that a little go. Slightly smaller actually because it's catching on the edge of the hole. So let's go for 13/16. That's better. Now, is it going to go on the pipe all right? That's the question. Might need a few gentle taps of persuasion. Just going to use this little pick and just try and feed it over there, because that's quite a sharp edge on that pickup, so I don't want it to, well, that sounded nice, whatever that was. A little tap, there it goes. Right, it's over the pipe now, right the way over. I'll just show you so you can see what's going on. Hang on a second, you're in the tripod. So you can see in there now we've got the pipe in the middle with the new black O-ring around the outside of it. So now, let me just put you back in the tripod. Now we should be able to use our actual bit there to wind in, yeah, and then that will gradually push that down gently without too much problem, hopefully. I've got to find me adapters that I used before. Sure, maybe it wasn't one of those I used. Can't remember what I used for it now. Yeah, it was one of those, that's all right, yeah. Now there's a certain one that fits into a socket. Is it still out, or is it, if I put it away again? That's the question. Probably knowing me, it's still out somewhere and I don't know where the hell it is. Ah, there it is. Right. Thing you've got to be careful of here is not dropping it in the middle of it. It's not going in very easy, that. Don't like that. Might give them threads a little clean out with a wire brush. By the look of it, there's no thread sealant or anything on this. It just goes as it is rather. Where's it? I had a tin of 3-in-1 oil around here. There it is. Putting out enough threads. Not too much. Right, that's obviously meat in the inside of that now, so that's why it's not allowing it to go in anymore. So we're going to have to wind it in. with this, if I use this rod, it'll stop it falling in. It's a theory anyway. I don't like how hard that is going in there, I'm not going to lie. It's quite difficult, but I think it might be because it's pushing that seal down with it. I don't want to do that seal in, that's the thing, but I think that's how it goes. I think you've got to crush it with that. It kind of goes inside it, it's got a taper. Just going to have a quick look at the manual again and make sure. Yeah, it's saying do it the way I'm doing it. I wonder if it's because I'm not using a socket that it feels like it's harder than it should be, you know? Don't know. Not 100% happy with that. I might try tapping that on a little bit more. Ah, did you hear that change noise then? It definitely changed noise. That has got to be all the way home now. It's got to be. So I can see a gap where there's no threads at the bottom there now, so I reckon that's better. I'm more happy about that than I was before. I wasn't liking the way that was winding in here. You can see how much that's winding in now and how easy it's going in. Obviously you're going to need to finish it with this. It's a lot easier now. Must have a little bit of grit because I can do it with my fingers again now. Yeah, much happier with that, that's good. Now, I wonder what the torque spec is on it. It says it has a torque spec, so we better check it and see. Yeah, it calls it a union screw, so that's 55 foot-pounds it's got to go up to. So what we need to do is get that torque wrench, find out what size the end of that is. 17mm by the looks of it. I was going to say, if this is going to fall off these, I want to wrap some tape around that so it sticks in there. Might still do that because otherwise I don't want to lose it down the middle of that oil pickup. Just to give it something to hold on to. Right, 55 foot-pounds. There's 50. .55 is about there. Try and do this without an extension if I can, because it makes it more accurate on the reading. There we go. 55 foot-pounds. That's it. There we go. There's our oil pickup back in. I don't think on the underside of the engine there's anything else that's got to go on before the sump now, which is absolutely mega. I've got a cover to put back on there, and I've got the oil pump housing to put back on, which I've got to clean up the other side of it yet. It's down there on the floor. But yeah, I think that was the only thing stopping the sump going back on, I'm pretty certain. There we go. So now I need to get all this cleaned up. I've already cleaned up the other side. There is a specific sealer which you have to use for that, and it's called Permabond A136. So I happen to have a pot of there. So pretty sure that's the one that I've got to use on that. I'm going to double check that with the manual. So I'm going to have a little clean up with this with the old wire brush, get all this menk off. You can see it's got some sort of, well, probably this stuff from before. It's very, very old and brittle and flaky. So we're going to get all that off, get it all cleaned up, and then we can get the oil pan on. And that is basically the bottom end of the engine back together. Top banana. Rightio, there we go. There is our sump all cleaned up. As you can see, I've gone over the tray and the edge of the sump, all nice and clean. I did it with a wire wheel first of all, that little one there, and then this little plastic wheel in the drill there, just to make it a nice finish. Same on the bottom there, all nice and clean. Now this tray bolts in the middle there with 2 bolts. Obviously I need to put a sealer in between first, which is the Permabond A136, as I said before. So I've got to put that on the edge of the sump, put this oil baffle on, then another layer on top of this oil baffle, and obviously that can go on the bottom of the engine. I'll just show you something else that I've done off camera. I've gone over all the bolts on this sandwich plate, all the main bearings, and made sure that they're all torqued to spec, and I've got myself some gold oil paint markers, and I've gone over all the nuts and bolts, or nuts I should say, with the gold marker to make sure that I've checked them all and they're all done. So that is all ticked off, all pick up on. This is a later engine, so it doesn't have the extra pipe here. I just checked my video and there was no extra pipe going through there. Some of the earlier engines have an extra breather pipe, I believe, going through that hole there, but this one does not have that. So I think we're ready to get this glued on, and then that can be the bottom end complete. That's going to be a bit of a milestone now, and then we can flip the engine over, put the dipstick tube in, and carry on with the top end, and that'll be a nice bit of progress. Top banana. Right, there we go. Sump is on, torqued. I had to do a little bit of jiggery pokery with a couple of bolts because they're all different lengths. I had a couple in the wrong place and they were bottoming out in the holes, so swapped them for these two, which are actually got open-ended holes on them, and then they fitted just fine, so that's good. I've put my paint marker on all of them. In fact, I've just noticed that one I've not done. I don't know why I missed that one, but I have. These actually two are actually nut and bolts. You look at it around here, for whatever reason, this one and this one are nut and bolts. Don't know why they're nut and bolts rather than being captive, but anyway, let's what do I do with the paint marker? I had it literally 2 seconds ago. And I've put it down somewhere and now it's vanished into the ether. Over here it is. Right, let's just mark those two because I know I've torqued them all up. Just put a little line on the head of the bolt going down the side onto the washer and onto the bit where it's torqued to, because that then makes you know whether it's moved or not. I don't know, that one I've missed. That one I've missed off the top though, so let's just put a bit on the top of that. There we go. So there we go. Sump is on, torqued. Let's hope I've done it right and I haven't got to go back in there again. That is the hope. So let's get the engine flipped over now and carry on. Right, I've spent a little bit of time off camera, as you can see, cleaning up the oil pump housing, and the distributor obviously is in there as well. And this little housing here, which is for the oil pressure sensor, cleaned all that up. I'd already cleaned up the side of the block over there, as you can see, it's all nice and clean where those two bits go on. So I've got some stuff here called MEC-TEC, which I've not used before. It's a gasket sealer, which also is a bit sticky, so that obviously it sticks the gasket to whatever you're putting on. So I'm going to use some of that, get the gaskets put on these two pieces, then put another layer on the gasket, get them stuck on the side of the engine, and we can get those bits bolted back on and start getting some bits off the garage floor. Let's crack on. Right, I got a bit confused with this oil pump because I had various different bolts and things that were the random lengths that I didn't know where they went, but it turns out there's an extra bracket which I had on the floor over there, which is for, I think, for the aircon compressor to bolt onto, so that's why it's got an extra bit on it. So there are longer bolts on this one, and this one. There's a spacer under there which I had to find where it went, and I've also got another spacer here which I put on that bolt. I'm not 100% sure that's right at the moment. That spacer was in the pot of bolts that all this, when I took all this apart, so I'm assuming it goes on there, so I've just put it there for now just to sort of, so it's on the engine, I know where it is and I'm going to lose it. This oil cooler part that goes on the oil filter housing is just sort of hanging there at the moment because the oil filter actually holds that on. So that's just sort of hanging there. I've given the distributor a little bit of a clean up. I've put the oil pressure sensor back in the housing there, so that's on. And the next thing I've been looking at is the front and rear crank seal plates. Now I've cleaned up all this one, and I've actually put a new seal in this one. Unfortunately I nicked the edge of it, you can just see on the edge there, but it's a non-sealing bit luckily, so that has got a new seal in that. Now I haven't done hard about putting that in for a long while because I wasn't sure about the quality of these new seals, but they seem, well, this one's got a brand on it, MEC, and I looked up them and it's apparently they've got 40 years experience, so we've gone with that one. The rear one, however, is completely non-branded and I'm not 100% sure about it. Also, it's not got any, it's totally smooth on the inner surface, where the old one has got little like lion ribs in it. Hopefully you can see that on camera. Trying to focus it with the light on it. You can't see it on the camera. but on this little surface here, there are all little ribs in it. You can probably see it better there, which obviously help with oil sealing. Now, I've measured both of these and there's less than half a mil between the two of them with a caliper. So I'm not sure what to do about that one at the moment, but we haven't got to deal with that one right this second because obviously it is behind the engine stand anyway, so I can't put that one on really anyway, but I can now get the front one on. I've cleaned up the back of this rear housing as well, just show you, did that off camera, so that's all nice and clean, ready for the new gasket. But I think I'm going to leave the rear one for now. I'm going to get the front one put on because then that means I can put the gear for the cam belt on and the front pulley back on, and then that's another couple of bits off the floor. Where's the front pulley gone? Somewhere around here. There it is. I'll clean it up too. Got all the old manky crusty bits out where the belts go. Give it a little clean up on the front. It's come up really quite nice actually. So I'm going to get those bits I think bolted on next, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I may start looking at possibly the water pump and getting that rebuilt, because I've got a rebuild kit for that, and then we can get that bolted back on. That's another bit on the block that's bolted on, because all this stuff was obviously on the engine when it came out of the car when we lifted it out. And then we'll basically be back to where we was when we first took the engine out of the car, because I'd already taken the head off when I took the engine out of the car with Dan, so the head was already off. But obviously I'm going to put the head back on. That's going to be the next job, probably after the water pump maybe. So we'll have a little seal up with this front crank, get that all sealed up, at least that bit's out of the way then, and then we'll carry on from there. Right, there we go. There is our housing on, lower camshaft pulley on, and obviously the main pulley on. Now I'm going to have to take the main pulley back off again to do the cam belt, but I've just put it on there for now just to give me a little boost that it's on there, and also so it doesn't get lost and it's out of the way and off the floor of the garage. So another little job we've got to do. The new camshaft tensioner is just a bearing. It doesn't come with any of this centre, which is obviously offset pivot, so you can tension it with this. So we need to push this out the middle of that and install a new bearing onto this centre piece. But while we're over at the press, we can obviously look at the water pump rebuild kit as well, because we're going to need the press for that too. So I'm going to have a little look at the kit for that. Maybe we'll go and have a look at that and see if we can get that done, and then we can. I'm not sure whether I want to bolt the water pump on yet, because it may be easier to get the head on with the water pump out of the way, because it does sort of sit a little bit higher than the head. So it may be that we switch gears slightly, and maybe I'll start looking at the head and take a few valves out, or take all the valves out in fact, and clean them all up, make sure they're all lapped in nice, and then we can get the head on. Should be really, really good. So that's a mega step forward once that's on there. That'd be really cool. So I'm going to have a little mooch about this and see what we've got to do with this water pump. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll leave that for the minute and go and jump straight onto the head. I haven't decided yet, but we'll carry on and go from there. Right, little update for you. Unfortunately, I've not got my microphones at the moment because they've decided to throw a wobbly, but I've done a little bit of work on this bracket off camera, cleaned all that up and got that in a nice coat of high temperature grey. So that's drying at the moment. I've done the same with, where is it? Can't see it. Oh, that pulley there, the bracket on the back of that pulley, I've done the same on that, so that's currently drying as we speak as well. I'm going to do the actual pulley in black, so that's sitting on there drying as well. I've also put the new bearing on the cam belt tensioner. That's pressed on there now. That was pretty easy to do, just a case of pushing it off and pushing it on. It pushes from the front off because the rear piece is bigger. You can see the diameter is bigger. It can only go one way. So you push it out from the front and in from the back. So that's on. Here is the new parts for the water pump rebuild. That's what you get in the kit: a new bearing, a new seal on the back, and this sort of sleeve. I can't quite work out how this comes apart at the moment. I'm assuming you push it from the front and that sort of flange bit on there comes off, and then obviously you push the whole lot through, because you can't go from the back because the impeller's there, which the impeller is slightly damaged on this, but there's not a lot I can do about that because I think that's just corroded where it's been sitting in water. So I did speak to the parts guy about that, where I got all the parts off of Gary, and he said that he reckons that will be alright and you won't notice it. So we'll run with that. Housing needs a bit of a clean up still inside, but I'll do that once I get the impeller off. So I may go and investigate how this comes apart, or I may start on the heads. I've got my spring, or the head I should say, I've got my spring compressor tool there. So maybe I'll have a little go at this, and we'll take a couple of valves out and see what sort of condition they're in. Maybe I'll get set up on that and do that. I fancy having a look at this to see what it's like, and if I can get these lapped back in, then obviously there's a big part that can go back on the engine, and not be in my way because I keep kicking it and I don't want to damage it. So let's have a little look at the head, I think. Right, I'm hoping you can hear me alright. So I've not got my microphones on, so let's hope you can hear me okay. So basically what you have to do with this is you get one side of it on the flat side of the valve and the other side on this side, and obviously this side's got an open end, so you can squeeze the valve together and get the little collets out that are inside. And obviously you have to adjust this because every cylinder head you'll do will be slightly different, so it obviously needs to be adjusted. Last time I used this was on the Reliant, so as you can see that's basically I'm not going to do anything at the moment because there's not enough there to push on. So we'll wind that in. And then hopefully, sorry about the buzzing in the background, that's the drill charger charging the battery up. It's one of those fast chargers, it's got a little fan inside that makes a bit of a racket. Let's see if that pushes that. See, now I've done it too much and I can't push it. Wind it off the end of that, that's not ideal, is it? Actually that might fit better on there. Yeah, in fact we'll do that. You can swap the ends around because obviously different size valves and different size ends. You can actually swap the whole thing around. Surprised you have to take the whole lot. No, I didn't think you have to take the whole lot off. You just have to take the ends off. This is me faffing now. So that bit comes off of there. That bit can go on there. That will then allow us to get to the end of the valves and the collets easier because it's got a bigger end on that. Right, let's see how that goes. I don't know how easy this is going to be to push. It might need a bit more, or a bit less of an angle on it. Not ideal working on the floor, I'm not going to lie, but I haven't got a workbench to work on at the moment, so here's what it is. Oh, it's so tight, why is it so tight? The other thing is it could be that these springs are stuck. Possibly. You know, see what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a, I don't really want to put that flat on the ground because let's get a towel. Don't want to get any scoring or dirt on the back of that face of that head. I'm going to get a bigger dead blow hammer than that, and I'm going to give those a little knock on the top and try and get them so they're a bit freer because they look like they're stuck. I think my really big dead blow hammer's in the other workshop stroke shed. These should, this is a plastic dead blow hammer, so they won't damage them. make sure they're all free. That's what I want to do. They're all free. I seem to get a better hit going that way, so let's go that way. That one was stuck, but it's not now. That one is totally stuck. That one is totally stuck. That one seems a bit stuck. Right. So in theory now they've all been a bit freed up, they should. God, loads of gunk come out of this head. What was that? That's that in it. Probably that's bars leak stuff that was coming out the block originally. Sorry, it's not the camera. Why is it so damn tight? I know these are tight, but this is. Ah, there it goes. That was really stuck. That was. One collet just fell out. Two collets just fell out. There we go. These have actually got double springs on these. So you've got an outer spring and an inner spring. You can see that on camera. So that's why they're extra strong, because they've got double springs on them. There we go, there's our first valve out. Now you can see that's really manky on the back side. Hopefully you can see that on camera. Lots of carbon on it and whatever else. Also the face is not exactly a great seal. So that's what we're going to plan to obviously fix by relapping the valves in and cleaning them all up. So I'm going to spend a bit of time with a wire brush on this one. There's a really big ridge on that of carbon. I'm going to clean all that up with a wire brush on a drill, and then we'll go about relapping them back in again, or relapping this one back in again and see what it comes up like. It's going to be a bit time consuming this, but it's going to be worth it. Right, there is our first valve after a bit of cleaning up. Now it took a little while. Carbon was really thick on the stem there. I actually had to use a blade to scrape a lot of it off and then go over it with a wire brush after. But as you can see, that has cleaned up really nicely all the way along, nice and smooth. There's no ridges in it or anything like that. Maybe a slight little one there, but we ain't going to worry about that. But now the most important thing is getting this surface cleaned up, because as you can see, that is absolutely manky as anything and rough. So let's have a little look at the actual valve seat. Yeah, that doesn't look that great either, so I'm probably going to go over that with a wire brush as well. First of all, we'll clean all the gunk out of there, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with every valve and lap each one in, and hopefully we'll have a decent bit of compression by the end of it. So let me get set up and I'll show you what we're going to do. Rightio, I've spent a little bit of time on that port that I just showed you, and it's nice and clean and shiny in there now. If I show you from this direction, you'll be able to see better, because the light's actually shining through it, the side to side. So you can see the side on the left is the side I haven't cleaned, and the side on the right is the side I have cleaned. So all the carbon is actually on the towel there. So that's nice and clean all the way through there as best I can get it. Anyway, with a wire brush, little wire brush on a drill, little tiny one, like that one there. So we're going to leave that for a second, and I'll show you what we're going to do with the valves. So with the valves, you have a valve lapping stick, effectively, with a sucker on each end, and I've got some fine compound and some coarse compound. They are the things that you use for this. Now, some will say you can use a drill, and you probably can. I've never done it that way, but you can use a drill. But you are supposed to go backwards and forwards, if that makes sense. And there are actually attachments you can buy that I've seen that go in a drill that do that motion backwards and forwards, but obviously really fast. That makes it a lot quicker. Unfortunately, I haven't got one of those, so I've got to do it old school. So basically, I'm going to get the coarse compound. I'm going to get a little bit on the end of, in fact, let me wipe my finger first of all. Hang on. A little bit on the end of my finger. Wipe it round where you want to lap the valve in, on the edge of the sort of tip of the valve effectively. So it's your discretion how much you want to use. I just like to get it so it's got a bead right the way around. So it's obviously got a reasonable amount in there. Now what I think I might do after I've done this one is actually take all the valves out in one go, because that way I can clean all the ports in one go, clean all the valves in one go. It shouldn't make any difference. So that is now going to slot into where it should go, into the valve guide, like that. Then you get your sucker. Hopefully it'll stick. These are a little bit bigger valves than the Reliant, so hopefully it might stick a little bit easier. And you basically do that and spin it with your hands, and you can feel the coarseness go, and you can tap it back down again. And each time you tap it, you get a little bit of fresh compound in the seat. Like that. And obviously the aim of the game is to get it so that you get a nice seal right the way around the edge of that valve, and you'll know that it's done because on the back of the valve, when you take it out and clean it, you'll get like a grey line around it. Now obviously I haven't got there yet because these valves aren't in the greatest of shape, but you can see, hopefully see, there's a line starting to appear around it. Now I've only literally just started, so it's going to take a little while. But yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do. I may use the drill just to get through this griminess layer on this and then go back to the backwards and forwards motion. Maybe worth a try because these are pretty bad. I don't particularly want to fork out for a new set of valves. If I can help it. If I have to I will, but obviously if I don't have to I won't. So I'm going to have a little mess around with this and see how good I can get this particular one. I won't keep doing it this one on camera because I want to spend a bit of time on it and see what I need to do on each one, so I know the sort of process of how far I've got to go, and then I'll show you the result once I've got this one where I want it to be. Right, I've just taken the second, is that inlet or exhaust? Exhaust, I think. I can never remember which way around these are, whether the bigger ones are on the inlet or the exhaust. Maybe it's the exhaust, I don't know. Anyway, I've taken the second valve out and it is more of the same. I've cleaned it all up, as you can see, got all the carbon off of it, but you can probably see in the reflection here the edge where you're supposed to have a nice smooth surface, the same as the other one, is very, very rough. I'm not sure whether these are going to be reusable. This one's actually worse. You can see that's after a little bit of lapping in, and it's not great. It wants to be nice and smooth. It's supposed to be a nice smooth band all the way around it. You can see the grey area, the light grey area where it's obviously lapped in, or lapping in I should say, but you're never going to get rid of all those pits unless you regrind the valves. So it may be that I have to get new valves. I think what I'm going to do next is get all the valves out. It doesn't matter which position they go in. I'll get all the valves out and then I can give the head a proper clean inside with the wire brushes and whatever else, and then we can inspect all the valves and see exactly what we're working with. I think that's going to be the best course of action. Right, there we go, there is all the valves out. Now it looks like all the exhaust valves are in not great shape, but all the inlet valves are pretty good. So I'm going to at least, I think, going to need a few exhaust valves. I'm going to obviously clean all these up and make sure they're all right. I'm making sure that all the inlet valves are absolutely fine. A little bit of pitting on that one, but it should clean up okay. Again, not too bad, not pitted or anything like that, not like them other ones. So I think we're alright on these. It's just the exhaust valves that are not so good, which I was pre-warned of. So yeah, there we go. I'll just show you the head while we're here. So you can see the exhaust side is all the carboned up, or all black side, and the inlet side is quite clean in comparison. I think all the seats will clean up okay, like that one did. That one was really bad on the end there, but I wire brushed out and it came out absolutely fine. So I don't think the seats are going to be a problem, because obviously they're hardened. It's these exhaust valves that are going to be the issue. So I'll clean them all up anyway off camera, maybe on camera, I'll see. And obviously see what they come up like and go from there, I guess, and see what we need to buy. Rightio, I've done all the valves barring one. I thought I'd just stop here and show you the difference between a lapped valve and a non-lapped valve. Now that one I've just done, the one in my hand, as you can see, hopefully you better see it on there, it's got a nice matte grey edge all the way around that seat, uniform all the way around. Hopefully it's focusing on that and not on the floor. Yeah, you can see it, can't you? So that is what it should look like once it's lapped in. I'll just show you the last valve that I haven't touched yet. Got mank all over it. Hang on, let me wipe it on a cloth. That's where I've got all the gunk out the head. You can see it's actually shiny. It almost looks like, I don't know if this is true or not, but it almost looks like these valves have been fitted to this head and never been lapped in, because that's got no matte grey on that at all, as far as I can see anyway. I'll put them side by side, you'll see the difference. Zoom in. It's quite a big difference there. It almost looks like they've never been lapped in. I don't know why, but there we go. So I'm going to finish off that final inlet valve, and I can probably get all those put back in with the springs and collets and everything, so I'm not going to lose them. I'm not going to go all over the floor, so that might be a good idea. And then I'm going to look into getting a new set of exhaust valves, because I think most of these, although some of them probably are usable, they have got quite a lot of pitching around them, and they're never going to seal as good as I'd like. Hopefully you can see that. If I put it on there, you'll be able to see it probably better. There's quite a lot of pitching in that, and they're all the same as that. Now you could probably regrind them, but I think they're about £16 each. It probably cost more to get them reground than what it would to buy new ones. So I think I'm going to get a new set of exhaust valves. I've already asked the fella I've been getting the parts off how much a set is, so wait for him to come back to us and go from there, I guess. Rightio, I've had a bit of a reset and a clean up after all the mankiness everywhere. I've got all the exhaust valves out the way, and I've got all the all the valve springs and everything cleaned up. These are all the inlet ones. The exhaust ones are just over there. I've got all these obviously back out again. I've given the head a nice clean up, and I've also taken out and cleaned all of these washers which go on the seats of the springs there. So they're all cleaned and demankified and all the rest of it and ready to go. So I think what I'm going to do is get all the inlet valves back in again. At least I know where they all are then. They're all going to be lapped in, or they've already been lapped in I should say, so they'll all be ready to go. It'll just be a case of getting a new set of exhaust valves, which I've spoken to the parts guy about, and obviously once they arrive, then we can get them put in, and then basically the head is pretty much rebuilt. Now I have wondered whether I should get this skimmed, but I have read things online that say that these heads on these Lotuses in particular, it's better off if you don't, if they don't really need it, and I don't think this really needs it. I've had a flat edge on it and it seems pretty straight, so I mean, I'm obviously going by a fairly inaccurate means doing it that way, but yeah, I think we're going to be okay on that side of things. I'm going to double check it again with a straight edge and just make sure that I'm happy with it and there's no sort of light that shines through or anything like that. But the new head gasket that you get in the kit is quite thick in this new one. It's quite a substantial bit of kit rather than the original one, which was a multi-layer metal gasket, which is obviously a lot thinner, so it will have a little bit more give to take up any slight undulations that may be in the head, but I don't think there is any, so I think we're just going to go with it. A new set of exhaust valves is about 138 quid plus postage, so not the end of the world. I mean, well, not ideal, obviously. I'd rather not spend the money, but I'm not going to come all this way and do all the work we've done to it and skimp on it now. So I'm going to crack on, get these inlet valves back in, and then obviously we'll be at least halfway to having a rebuilt head. Let's crack on. Rightio, there is our inlet valves all back in. As you can see there, you would have seen in the time lapse, all in. Tapped them all with a hammer, make sure that they're all seated nice. Use a little bit of grease on the collets when they were going in, so to make sure obviously that they stick, so when you pull the spring compressor back off again, they stay where they should do. So that is half the head rebuilt. Now, as I say, we've got to wait for the exhaust valves to come, unfortunately, so I can't do any more on this at the moment. The seats all look okay, so I'm pleased with that. It's literally the valves that have taken the brunt of it, which is really, really good. So if having it that way round, if that makes sense, is a lot better than having it so that rather than the valves being okay and the seats being bad, I'd much rather it be the valves bad and the seats okay. So that's mega good progress on that head. So I can't do anything else on it now because we need to wait for those parts. So we shall crack on with something else, I guess. Right then, that is where we are going to have to leave it for this episode on MEC-TEC. We have made some mega progress on the old engine. I'm well chuffed with the way this is coming out. Now, I know it's nowhere near finished, but at least it's kind of looking like an engine again now, which is obviously a really good thing, and a bit of a morale booster for me, rather than just being a pile of bits all over the floor. So hopefully in the next Lotus episode, we're going to be able to get those exhaust valves in once they arrive. We're going to be able to get the head on the engine, probably the camshafts back on, and we might even get it all timed up and ready to go with any luck. I don't know how far we're going to get. Obviously things do take a little bit longer than you always think they're going to when you're doing things like this, because you think, oh, I'll just clean that little bit up, I'll just clean that little bit up, and then the next thing you know, 3 hours have gone past and you don't know where the time's gone. So yeah, bear with me, because I'm obviously doing it the best I can, trying to keep the quality up whilst trying to keep videos coming out for you obviously as well. So it's kind of like a bit of a balancing act on that side of things. Obviously I want to get the engine as best as it can be, that is paramount, but I also want to get videos out for you as well. So yeah, there we go. So as I say, next episode we'll be carrying on with this, hopefully. I don't know if it's going to be immediately the next video or whether we're going to have to wait a little while for bits again. I don't know. I'm hoping they're going to arrive fairly soon, and we can obviously crack on and hopefully get this back in one piece. We also need to get the gearbox cleaned up. That's sitting over there under a pile of stuff, as per everything in this garage. We need to get all that cleaned up, and I've got a new seal kit on the top, on the roof of the van over there for that as well. So we need to get the seals all replaced on that too. So hopefully we can get that done as well. And in theory, then once I've cleaned all the brackets and stuff up that hold the gearbox and the engine in, once these two are built, we can get them back in the car. and then hopefully we can get it running. That is going to be so good. 24 years it's been now, because I've had the Lotus over a year, so it was sitting on the driveway 23 years. I've been working on it for just about a year on and off, so it's 24 years now. So if we can get this running this year, it's going to be the first time running in almost a quarter of a century. So that is going to be absolutely superb. Right, if you do like what you see, make sure you do 4 things for me: like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. It's all free, it costs you absolutely nothing, and I really do appreciate it. It helps the channel out massively. I'm sorry I've still got dirty hands, but I've literally just finished filming. I'm doing the ending to this video. Tell your friends, tell your family if they like car stuff. Make sure you put them my way. They may enjoy the videos, or it may send them to sleep at night. One of the two, you decide. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I will see you again next time. Cheers, guys.